before we jump into the first episode of the Zaro podcast, I just want to clarify one thing. We do reference an existing first episode that doesn't actually exist. So we're new to this whole podcast game, and what we did is we recorded a first episode and we hit some technical issues that meant we couldn't really edit them, keep the audio in sync and that. And we decided, do you know what, let's learn from that, put that behind us, and we'll go in with the next episode and just run with that as our first one. So as you watch this podcast, don't worry, we're talking about an episode that doesn't exist. You won't find it, but what we will do is take the content that we talked about and revisit that in future episodes. So this is episode 1 of the Zaro podcast. Enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Zaro podcast. I'm your host, Martin Adams, and I'm joined with Tim Porter.
Hello.
So this is episode 2 of the Zaro podcast, Tim. So
yeah, that's true.
We've gone through a bit of a rocky patch trying to edit down the first one. We're still trying to do it, to be truthful. But
yeah, you as listeners will not have heard the first one yet because Martin's still editing the first one.
That's true. No, it sounds like I'm lazy, but there's actually some craziness to that, because when we launch the podcast, I want a series of episodes together so that you can kind of get a feel for how we're going to be consistent, and kind of when you come to the end, you've got a reason to subscribe.
Indeed.
So, and we'll be pushing it out via SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes. I don't know. Yeah. I've never done a podcast before, so
it's a good idea for us to be ahead of things, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and obviously
YouTube
as well.
I do apologise for my audio on this side because it's raining and it's very windy, and I don't know if it's going to pick up.
That's fine. You sound all
don't
right.
worry.
You sound right. Okay, so the first episode we experimented with doing 3 questions, and it was about an hour long, and I think that's a bit too much. I want to keep these shorter, so we're just going to do 1 question at a time. And then the idea here is that if the question is on a topic that someone's interested in, they can just dive in. So it's not, you don't have to consume the podcast in a linear way. You can kind of dive in and get the question. So I did a little Twitter poll. Didn't get that many responses, to be truthful, but there was a clear winner. I say clear winner. There was a winning question. The questions were in the topic of things like how to make a really good show reel, launching Kickstarter. But the winning question was, as a freelancer, how to find clients. So let's set the scene here. My background is I've been employed, but I've also had my own company. I have had clients. But I wouldn't consider myself one that has lots and lots of clients, where they last for 3-4 weeks and then they go and then you get a new client. So I've not really done the whole pipeline thing, but I've got a few thoughts around there. And yourself, Tim, how many clients would you say you've had?
Quite a few. And I probably found in a way that you wouldn't. Well, I don't know. I mean, you might expect it to go a traditional way for creatives, and you go through agencies and things like that. But I've been very lucky in the extent that it's all been effectively word of mouth.
Okay.
So I work on a job, and then it's gone well, and then it passes down the chain. Yeah. Then it's a recommendation to a recommendation, so that's been great.
So we touched on the last episode about the importance of a show reel is really to help sell yourself.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Particularly in a word of mouth. I think sometimes you think I'm going to create a show reel, put it online, and boom, everything kind of happens. But it's not like that. Reality is it's hard work. So for me, finding clients, generally, again, it is through my network. But I've had some chance opportunities where it wasn't through my network, but it wasn't purely online. So let me give you a couple of examples. I found a client which I became the CTO of their startup purely because I was at a trade show and I wanted to ask a question. I was building a side project to do web scraping. They were an online marketplace, and I wanted to ask them the question, how do they get the data from their retailers into their system? Because I was basically trying to pitch my product, but I was doing it as more of a curiosity question to see if there was a product market fit. Yeah. And I was waiting around, and the CEO of the company was like busy talking to other people. I had my other client. I was kind of there, sort of with my other client, as kind of as a group, and I was like, umming and ahhing. Do I bother? Do I not? Do I bother not? And I thought, like, yes, I'll ask the question. And we just hit it off. And 6 months later, lots of kind of persuasion, I then became the CTO of the startup, and that lasted for three 3.5 years. So
Yeah.
the point here is, I did something out of my comfort zone, and I striked up the conversation. And this is someone I'd never met before, and it was really fantastic in that in that respect. Other examples, I've been in a co-working space, and literally the person next to me gave me work as a UX designer to go in and consult and help with his projects. And it's like, that's purely based on that interaction where I represent myself as a professional. They have a need, I have a skill set, and we combine there. And then another job I've done where literally I just had this voicemail from someone saying, "Oh, I did a Google search and I found your website. I don't know how that was possible. I literally have put no effort into being found on Google because I'm not the agency model. I'm a whether you call me a freelancer or a contractor, I tend to do long-term projects.
Yes.
Did the call back. They said, come in, let's just have a chat. Again, it was a UX job. And we just hit it off. And one meeting led to next, and it was good. So I've got a few clients that way, but the majority of my work has generally been through recommendations or my personal network. People I've worked with maybe in previous companies, connections through the family, those kind of things. And the reason why I'm able to do that is because obviously the work ethic and the quality of the work and all of that. But the introduction is I guess finding clients is about the introduction. There's a whole part of how you win the business once you've got that introduction.
I think it's about being, I think, as well, at a set level. You need to have a certain confidence in the work that you do. I mean, 100%. Martin, you're a perfect example of that because you started your own business when you were, how old were you?
18.
18? I was going to say 15.
I was entrepreneurial. I was working, but the limited company was set up when I was 18.
And it was that amount of time and it was that amount of research into something you were passionate about that when it came down the line, people didn't look at your age as, oh, you're somebody young that doesn't know what they're talking about. They were impressed by the knowledge and they were impressed by your capability.
It's taken me a long time to realise this. And actually, I think even just today, just chatting to my colleague, Catherine, interviews, like finding clients is a two-part process. One, getting the interview, and two, pitching who you are. And the biggest thing I would say to any interview, whether it's a formal interview or a casual, let's just have a chat and you kind of let things evolve from there, is fall in love with the problem that they have and want to solve it. Make it seem like that you're really excited and get to a mindset where you can be really excited, like where they're talking about, we want to do something more creative on our social media. You're like, oh, well, you can do da-da-da-da, and you can start throwing ideas, give away the freebies, right? And inspire them, because in their mind, you're creating demand for what you're saying, but also you're the one saying it, so they want you to carry that through. And that's kind of what I do. When I chat to people or companies and that, I'm not doing it to pitch and I'm not scared about winning the business because I'm fortunate enough to not need to be. But I just like to go deep and fall in love with the problem that they have. And that's how you shortcut or you accelerate the kind of relationship with them, which pushes you over the threshold of winning that business. So
definitely.
And I think the same goes for job interviews. But even if you're not a freelancer, if you job interview, fall in love with what they're doing, and make it seem like that when you come to work, you're going to be.
I think it's definitely individuality that shines through in a lot of these cases. Whenever I've done interviews, I'm one of these weird people that quite enjoys them, and it's purely from the standpoint that somebody asked me questions about what I do and what I enjoy. So there's no problem with that. I don't need to turn up with cue cards. I don't need to say like everybody else is going to say, I'm passionate and I'm creative. And it's words. Yeah. There's nothing to back that up.
I will tell you, I have been in situations where it doesn't happen now because let's say I'm slightly more mature in terms of how I do business, but go back where I have been in situations where I've been in more even corporate kind of pitches, and I didn't have that confidence. I didn't fully understand what they wanted to solve. I wasn't 100% confident on my skill set to do that. I didn't believe I had the time to do that, or I could work at a pace that would match what they want. And I'll be honest, those projects, I either didn't get the work, or I did get the work, but they kind of didn't really pan into anything tangible. And the projects failed, and like they were just managed completely wrong from the offset. No user experience. We didn't fall in love with the problem, didn't manage it in an iterative way. And actually the real biggest problem with that is the ones in the corporate side. These were situations where someone was trying to achieve something in their department, in their job, but it wasn't really an official arrangement. So they were trying to get outside help to kind of build support. And these are really dangerous projects, because in this particular case, it turned out that person left the company.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody knew about the project. And it's like, wait a minute, So you've got to be careful of who you're dealing with. It's got to be an official kind of proposal, not someone with wishful thinking, and then they go and do something with budgets to try and pay for it, or worse, don't have the budget and they've already commissioned you. But that's probably a topic for another day. How to deal with how to spot the clients who are likely to pay and who are not likely to pay. Right, I've got. So I'm going to make a note of that one, because I think that's a really good one. Like,
definitely,
how to spot good or bad clients.
I've been through the ups and downs on that, definitely.
You'll be pleased to know. Just a slight tangent here. I just put that into Zaro.
Nice.
A little backlog of ideas for the podcast.
That's good.
If you're not familiar with what Zaro is, it's the product that we're building, which is really awesome.
That was a crafty segue.
Yeah. Get the right hook in there. Go sign up on Zaro.io. Zaro, if you're confused. No X's. So okay. So that's kind of my take. I think it's hard when you're in a position, maybe you just left a full-time job and you're going freelance. I know a few people who've gone through this transition. It's really daunting, because suddenly your safety net, your income has stopped, and now you've got to be freelance, and it takes time to ramp up and build a reputation and get repeat work and all of that. So you've got to always be working your pipeline in terms of finding clients, and that is doing the networking, going to the meetups, communicating, maybe sharing content. These are the harder things to get yourself known. But most importantly, don't undervalue your immediate network when it comes to finding work. So have conversations, let people understand what you do. Don't shy away from it. Share what you do. Get involved in what they're doing, because then it kind of keeps the relationship kind of alive. So, Tim, you mentioned that you work with agencies. So, like, if you're a freelancer, get to know your agencies in the local area. Say, this is what I do.
Yes.
And if you're really struggling to kind of get in, and you're sitting there with no money coming in, and you're like, I've got to earn a living, but you've got no money coming in and time is going, that's when you do consider maybe you do some kind of, pro bono work, free work for agencies, whatever, to build a relationship. And if you're doing something, you're not being paid for it, but at the same time, wouldn't it be better to do something that builds your network than to...
I'd sort of counter that and say, if you are in a situation where, the work, your work has dried up a little bit, I wouldn't be doing the work necessarily for the agencies, unless it's an agency that you're really passionate about.
Yep.
I would be doing more like the work for yourself to showcase your skills, because you will find often the client work can be quite restricted because they follow certain guidelines. I want it a certain way, which you might go, hang on. Or it's tied to a deadline that you just you can't actually put in full creativity because of that restriction. Whereas if you have time and you love what you do, put it into a passion project. And then that can feed back into your showreel. That can feed back into entrepreneurial side in terms of if you want to launch Kickstarter or if you want to launch something independently. Then I think that's a definite avenue.
I do agree with that. Certainly, like if you're going to do it for free, right? You don't want to take the crap.
Well, yeah,
so
exactly,
so doing a passion piece, maybe finding. You're right. Maybe not that agencies are the right thing because the mechanics of how agencies work, but maybe more. Maybe there's a local brand or a local company that you really respect and you want to become.
Yeah.
Kind of. The importance of what I'm trying to say is use the time to do something that expands your network rather than being isolated. My
case. I mean, my freelancing work effectively started from a guy I've known for many years called Andy, and I went to university with him. And I, well, granted, I mean, I was doing work in Ireland, and I was sort of learning on that side, but it was effectively a full-time job in terms of actually coming back to the UK and doing freelance. First step was Andy, and he's a cameraman, and he was doing a project for Sony, and he needed somebody to do graphics, and that was the first one. I'd freelanced that from Ireland, and it was it was the backbone of going, I need to spend time to produce a first showreel that is not sort of short film focused and focused around a career as an editor. It's to focus around a career as an animator. And I worked hard on that because as much as I enjoyed my experience in Ireland, the work was not great towards the end. And I missed the UK, and I missed having full control over things. That was the starting block, and then that sort of everything piggybacked off of that really, because I mean Andy worked for an agency, and then the agency saw the work, and then suddenly then that was my first experience in getting agency work. And then at the early days it required a bit of research on on other agencies and things like that, but that's when I found a local agency here, and then I found a network through that, and then I became independent from that once I was confident enough to take away that safety net. Now it's a case of I'm too busy, and I've got
it's extreme, isn't it?
I've got another very talented guy, another Andy, who's amazing on the 3D side and can also cover projects which I haven't got the time for. It's been amazing as opposed to telling a client, no, I can't do it. I've also got this awesome guy, and we sort of work as a collaboration. So
I've just added in there, so getting help from others. So like actually branching out beyond you doing everything. That could be a topic for
I've just realised I've got like clothing on my radiator. So if you're gonna have to give this footage back to me so I can what hand is that? Jesus. Oh no, oh god. Hang on. There we go. Right, I'm just gonna be like that.
That's hilarious. We're really professional
and to
here.
a piece of trekkies there you go. Is it thumb in or thumb out? I'm not too sure. That sounded wrong, sorry.
Actually, I was just looking at getting a little pop-up green screen that I can just put behind, so we can be in like
basically your
Hawaii
production
or something.
Your production value on your side is going to look amazing. I'm in space. Check out the space thing, and I'll just be like, "Oh, have I got the socks?" No, I'm not too sure.
That's funny. I didn't even pay any attention. That's how unprofessional I am.
That's great. That's for
the audio listeners, you'll have to go check out the YouTube to see what we're talking about. Yeah, cool. Okay, so I think we're kind of agreed. It's mostly about your network.
It is, and it's about. I was shy at school. I didn't have a great amount of confidence and things like that. It was college that brought it out of me more than anything, I think. and to be honest, I went through a good patch of going, I don't want to talk to clients because it's scary, and I don't want to say the wrong thing and stuff like that. But ultimately, no, it's part part of my existence now, and it does require a little bit of networking. And just, again, if you're passionate about what you want to do, you can easily talk about it. So there's never a dull
100%.
conversation in that.
I mean, like, you just reminded me, if I go back to being like, Tim and I went to school together, so that's how we know each other.
I hang on to your coattails through life.
Well, I mean, I was painfully shy in school as well. I mean, the person I am now.
I think I brought that out from you.
Well, you say that though, but we were into filmmaking from the age of 13, so it's almost like taking a drama class, but not, because we were just kind of messing about, being as creative as we could. We did the little radio shows before we even had a camera. So doing these podcasts is kind of like reminds me of that a little bit, which is quite fun. But in the school, I used to be really shy. Like, I'd go bright red whenever I'd say something in public. Still do to a degree, but the difference is I don't care anymore, because I'm so confident in my ability and what I'm doing, and I don't care what other people really think. I respect people who have something valuable, but the naysayers and those, like, they're just whatever. But I think to get to where I am today, it was a conscious effort to overcome the fear of shyness, and that is talk about things that you're only passionate about. Don't put yourself in situations where, well, if you do find yourself in a situation where you don't know what's going on, or you feel you're out your depth, just let the other person know, like, this is beyond what I know here, right? And it just removes then any kind of fear of being, it's like the imposter syndrome, being found out. Like, if you're in an interview and someone's saying, oh, you can do this, this, and this, and you're like nodding away, yeah, but you're like, no, I can't. Have the confidence to say, well, what I can do is this, I can't do these, but know that what you can do is of real value. Yes. And don't feel like the things you can't do detracts from the value that you bring. And you really got to trust your craft and your skills. And if you're new to the game, you just got to go over and over and over, iterate. You've got to. It takes practice, takes dedication. Deliberate practice is where you skill up every step of the way, and then you really absorb those skills in. What you say, if you're a graphic designer doing logo design or something like that, like, you've got to have produced a lot to know that you can overcome almost any scenario when it comes to the creative, when a client says, oh, make it more like this, or no, and all those kind of things. So, and don't, like, the whole shyness and that, don't feel like you have to respond straight away. Yes. You control the conversation, and you can slow it down, let your mind think. If people are waiting for an answer, they must wait, because the answer is what's important, not the speed at which you give it.
I think it's interesting as well, because there are certain skill sets that I have now which I wouldn't have had if I weren't put in uncomfortable situations. I never got into branding before. I never got into that side of design, and it was years and years ago that an agency I was working for, they were stuck. They didn't have anybody to brand some things, and they'd sort of overpromised, and then they called upon me, and I'm like, I'll give it a go. And I found a great enjoyment through that. Now it's another skill set for me. It was, I was a little worried that I was just I knew not to use Comic Sans, and that was about it, But you gave it a go, and I found real enjoyment through it. But it was only, I wouldn't have thought necessarily outside the box and to go, oh yeah, maybe I should pursue that. But it was just another string to the bow. So sometimes being put in uncomfortable situations can yield really, really promising results. And ultimately, that means when you go into an interview and somebody throws you a curveball, or you're trying to net that client, then it can sometimes take another skill set.
I think this other thing, being a freelancer, you kind of want to have, you've got your core skill, and you want to be able to be comfortable with other skills. Either know that you can offload it to someone you trust, be very clear that it's not in your competency, or say, I can support this piece of work. So, like, we're doing a website, but we need a logo, right? Yes. So you may be really competent at web design, maybe not so much on the branding, but you can give it a go. And then if they don't like it at the end of the day,
absolutely,
they can go hire someone to do that specific thing.
Side note as well is we both myself and Martin came from humble beginnings. We've all been there in terms of a job that we disliked or was frustrating for us in terms of things. I mean, I used to be a temp at Argos, which was
I remember that.
which was not
Christmas
fun.
temp as well.
Christmas temp, yeah, and that was probably the worst job I'd ever experienced in my life. It was there was one guy I got along with who would put the radio on. And I was like, this guy's amazing because I can get through the day. And then all the other staff members were like, no, we must work in complete silence. How dare you? And the days just dragged. And then I worked at Cineworld. It's all of these things where the passion was there, and these things do take time. But just because you start there, it doesn't.
Oh my goodness,
you can achieve 100%.
My life right now is like playing Grand Theft Auto without the violence. Or the theft. But when you play the game, you start with nothing, right? You've got no money, and you're just a character running around. And gradually you level up. But as you get to the game, you're like, oh my goodness, yeah, I do have all those cars in the garage. Oh yeah, I do have all these things. But for me, I treat that as like, oh my goodness, I used to work for a company, and I dreamt of being able to be working for myself, and like, whoa, I'm doing that kind of now. I've got my own office, I've got my own studio. It's like every so often I stop and think I've leveled up. So I treat my everything as a step, and I'm always looking forward to the next steps, and I stop and think, wow, I did actually do more than I really appreciated. I've leveled up. But the important thing is, like with what we're talking about here, is now that's some kind of insight that we can help the next people pay it forward, and say, yeah, you may be doing a 9 to 5 or a temp job or whatever, something you absolutely hate, with a passion to do something else, and you can get there. It just needs the right mindset, the right kind of courage. You've got to be good at your craft, but the good thing is you can get good with the right mindset and the hard work and the ability.
You can all achieve and have socks/pants on the radiator in shot. So,
yeah. That's a high bar right there, Tim.
Definitely.
Oh my goodness. So let's wrap this up before this kind of winds on. We'll kind of keep it to the half-hour mark. So if you're listening to this, tell us where you're at. Drop comments. We're on Twitter. You can find them in the descriptions wherever you're listening or watching. If you've got any questions, stick them in, because as we produce more content, we want to produce content that is the right content. Like, we're still learning. By about episode 10, we will have nailed this. Yeah. If by episode 10 I still haven't edited episode 1 and
then we're in trouble. Or
if we have nobody listening to it, then we'll go cry in a corner and rethink. But actually, fear of failure, that's a whole another subject. Don't fear failure. This is an experiment for us. We want to give it a go, be consistent, hopefully provide value, refine that. So the bits that are going to be boring, where we lose people's interest, we'll work on that. But we need to know. We obviously need a way to know what works, what doesn't.
I think it's a learning experience, but it's very much. Well, in a strange way, it's as much as it's for everybody else and to spread knowledge, it's also for us, because we've got this year, and we're launching this, launching Zaro and things like that, and we're learning that, and there's going to be sort of a process of marketing through that, and so when it comes to sort of doing something similar to this, but very much tied into that. Then hopefully we'll be at a stage where it's like, yay, audio's in sync.
And
it's not a problem.
We'll have it. The production quality will go up, and we'll be like.
So the audience that does watch this / listen to this gets to go through all the technical troubles, and also the fact that I still have a cough. So I apologise. Yeah. So I go through a really passionate point, and then I go by the end of it. So hopefully next one I'll be all right.
There's a plug-in to remove that, right?
I hope so. Yeah, the flu's gone around the house left, right, and centre, just bouncing off a wall.
When the summer hits, we'll be better at it.
That's fine. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's wrap up. So thank you for listening. If you get this far in the podcast, we do really appreciate it. We hope that you subscribed to wherever you're looking. If you're doing it on iTunes, subscribe. If you're on Spotify, subscribe. If you're on SoundCloud, is it subscribe or follow? I don't know. But if you're on YouTube, obviously subscribe. So I love my YouTube. I've been doing the whole entrepreneur journey, vlogging and all of that.
And I'm trying to get you into Twitch.
Twitch, yeah. I'd love to do some live Twitch streams. One thing that I really want to get to a point where we can do is like maybe some live design sessions. But collaborative, where we go through the UX. If you're like, oh, I want to do a design for a particular app, and we'll be like, well, let's share how we would discuss that. Kind of like doing a mini UX workshop, but producing actual really awesome designs at the end. So you're like, the idea is you're like, damn, I didn't think I wanted to build that now, but now I really want to build that. Because you as you go through that process, you start falling in love with it.
Yes.
Which is exactly what's happened to us with the Zaro,
absolutely,
Zaro project. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
I've done my kind of call to actions. Hit the subscribe button. Tell us in the comments.
Do it like the kids do. Smash that like button, baby.
Smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next one. I watch a lot of YouTube.
Do they realise that it's not a physical thing? I mean, only smashing you'd be doing is like your fist through your monitor.
That's true.
Thanks, Casey Neistat. You owe me another monitor.
Yeah. Oh,
I just love you so much.
Sorry, just to throw this in at the end. Check out Casey Neistat's new vlog. Right, he's been hanging out. No. He's been hanging out with Peter McKinnon, right? Who's got a different style vlog. Uses like an insane camera, way bigger than Casey Neistat, but the styles are different. Peter McKinnon's more cinematic. Get there in the
Cinegraphic.
Oh yeah.
It's not sexy.
Yeah. But Casey's new vlog, he's clearly been learning a trick or two. It was really cool. So, awesome. Anyway, throw that out there if you're into the whole.
And check me out on the YouTubes. I've got a Game Grumps compilation, almost 50k views. Hit that like button. Yeah,
there you go. Game Grumps. Yeah. That's retro gaming, isn't it?
Kind of. Yeah, they're funny guys, but not like that.
So you do the edit. That was a gig for you, wasn't it? Doing the edit. But
it was 40 gig.
So, not that kind of gig, Tim. Like that was a job, but you didn't get paid for that. That was kind of because you're.
It's just like no. The reason for that is I tend to have a lot of Game Grumps on in the background when I work, and some of the other compilation edits had problems in the edit, and I'm so OCD. I went and did an edit where it was fixed, and then uploaded that. So it was so that was just for my personal viewing, but obviously it's a public video.
So that's how many hours?
Oh, how many hours is the thing?
It's about 9 hours or something.
About 8 or 9, I think. Yeah.
Send me the link so I can put it in the description.
Well, it doesn't need the views, man. Just search Game Grumps.
No. You've kind of mentioned that. For people into retro gaming, we're like, what's this Game Grump thing?
They'll know, I'm sure. But yeah, I'll send you the link.
But it's 40 gig upload to YouTube.
I think it was. Hang on, I'm going to check.
No, I remember it was something like that. It was like quite insane.
It was pretty huge. But the total runtime 7 hours 25 minutes. So there we go.
There we go. So yeah, I think we're done.
Yeah, cool, man. We'll catch you on the next one.
Catch you next one. Bye.
Yeah, bye.